What's up, guys, and welcome to today's video. We are talking about Halloween 666. Now, this script is probably going to be one of the most bizarre Halloween scripts we're ever going to talk about, at least so far in taking shape, too. This is probably going to be a long one. Here are all my notes. Yeah, so that's my Cliff Notes version, too. So sit back and let's talk about the journey to Halloween 6 and the first speed bump that was Halloween 666. Halloween 666 Origins, to be exact. So initially, Danielle Harris and Don Shanks were supposed to reprise their roles again after Halloween 5 came out. Nowhere near the success that Halloween 4 was, but if we remember, there were already flat guarantees Mustafa was getting for said films because of the success of Halloween 4. So to say that Mustafa probably profit healthy from Halloween 5, that's a safe bet. Here's something interesting. Don Shanks, after the release of Halloween 5, was actually encouraged to go to Fangoria conventions in the early 90s, dressed as the Man in Black to garner up interest for the next Halloween film. I don't know if there's any footage of this out there, but that's something I would really love to see. Now, one thing that I read that was super interesting was Donald Pleasance. Was he going to be in Halloween 6? Well, that was somewhat up in the air. Now, this is a sad thing to think about, especially considering he passed right after the making of Halloween 6. But at the time, they were unsure of his health, and in the age that he was not a spring chicken, to say the least. It's not that Donald necessarily didn't want to do it again. I think he said he was happy to do more. So that's why the ending of Halloween 5 is what it is. It's left somewhat ambiguous. It looks like Dr. Loomis has somewhat of a heart attack after attacking Myers, so he could potentially be dead at the end of 5 or a non-fatal heart attack, which we find out soon after it was in fact a non-fatal heart attack. But his involvement was questionable at the time because of his age. Thankfully, he was in fact in Halloween 6. Without him in Halloween 6, to say a puzzle piece would be missing would be a massive understatement. The interesting thing, though, is this. Even though Mustafa made a decent amount of money from Halloween 5 from the back-end deals he had, as the box office receipts started rolling in, he did decide, okay, you know what? We might need to pump the brakes a little bit on this and skip a year. He always said that he liked Halloween 5 in documentaries that I've seen. He never said anything negative about it. He always equated it to competing with himself, which is interesting when you look a few years beforehand where Dream Warriors and Dream Master skyrocketed above Dream Warriors. So that's an interesting thing. Maybe not a good comparison, but it's just, you know, be a little honest with yourself, Mustafa. Rest in peace. I love you. In October of 1993, Don Shanks was interviewed by Cover Story magazine, and here's what he had to say on the next Halloween entry. I was contacted this time last year. Mustafa told me they were working on a script for Halloween 6 and wanted to know if I was interested in playing the Shape again. That was the last I heard from him. Now, what's crazy is in a shocking setback, Mustafa ended up losing the rights to make the next Halloween film. There were too many setbacks that he was going through. I mean, wanting to wait a little bit from the last one, he ended up losing the rights. So that is when we start to get Miramax's involvement. But here's a crazy thing. None other than John Carpenter would be the one involved in a bidding war for Halloween. It's always funny, we keep hearing about how John wants nothing to do with Halloween, yet every time I'm reading this book, we see his name pop up again and again. None other than John Carpenter fought them in a bidding war for said Michael Myers. He had an idea for sending Myers into space. John would team up with New Line Cinema to attempt to outbid Mustafa Akkad in Miramax. So Mustafa, as we know now, went ahead and partnered up with Miramax to then try to get the rights back for Halloween to make it a joint venture movie. Despite the fact of the dwindling box office from Halloween 5, these companies knew that these were characters that were legendary and there were always going to be profits to be made in the future. So New Line was trying to get Freddy, Jason, Leatherface, and Michael. Take that for a few seconds and think about how crazy that could have been. All of them under one roof. Holy crap. Let's start getting into the process of what this film was shaping up to be, this Halloween 666 we're talking about. When Scott Rosenberg was asked to get involved in writing Halloween 6, he declined, but he set up his brother Phil Rosenberg, who was a diehard horror fan, to pitch Miramax and Mustafa. They met with him and were impressed with his pitch, despite having virtually no credentials. He was then hired to pen a screenplay. This screenplay would be titled Halloween 666, The Origin, and was dated April 6, 1994. So it's interesting, as we talked about on the crazy facts about movies, Miramax and Mustafas Akkad were oil and water. They came at these Halloween films in different ways. Miramax was eager to get money and profits from this franchise that they just bought into, and Mustafa had a little bit more of a legacy feel and a child love for the series, as he'd been with it since 1978. So they just were already fighting the moment they basically teamed up. And Phil's script was moving in a direction at one point, and then these fights started happening between Mustafa and Miramax, and he felt like, I guess my movie's not happening, because something started to happen right after that. Miramax Vice President Richard Gladstein wanted this new sensational director-writer named Quentin Tarantino to get involved with Halloween 6. Quentin thought it over, but would ultimately decline, despite being an admitted fan of the franchise. So I've always heard about this, but I never had too much context on what was what. So they did post an article in this book of Quentin being interviewed when talking about the possibility of him being involved with the Halloween 6, and here's what he had to say. Quentin Tarantino would tell Consequence of Sound magazine, "They're like fruit from a poison tree, because Laurie Strode is not Michael Myers' brother. I think they just yanked some idea out of their ass and talked themselves into it. Danielle Harris gives a fantastic performance in those movies. She does what she can to make them legit. But it's just that damn horrible idea from John and Deborah that ruined it and ruined the entire franchise." There you have it, guys. Quentin Tarantino is not a fan of the brother-sister angle of Halloween. Quentin and company Lawrence Bender would soon be asked to executive produce the film. They mulled over the opportunity. So at this time, Miramax was trying to get things going, and so they started to search out a director for this Halloween 6 film that they were going to make, even though there was no script set in stone. Again, we've heard about this from New Line Cinema with Freddy vs. Jason. They're hiring directors before they even have a script. The Weinsteins started searching for directors. Scott Spiegel, co-writer of Evil Dead 2 and director of Intruder, the 1989 slasher, was soon pursued. Spiegel recalls Mustafa feeling fairly reserved about using him. Upon reading the script, Scott Spiegel all but condemned Halloween 666. Soon after, that reservation from Mustafas Akkad grew, and infights with Mustafa and Miramax happened. He was off the project altogether. So what happens with Quentin Tarantino? Is he getting involved with Halloween 6 or not? Well, there was a possibility, and the opportunity seemed pretty fruitful for Quentin during this time. But then Pulp Fiction came out at the Cannes Film Festival, and he had bigger fish to fry after that, and much bigger opportunities. After Pulp Fiction all but changed the world after debuting at the Cannes Film Festival, Halloween 6 would clearly be in the rearview mirror for Quentin Tarantino. So that film became such a success, his opportunities after that were so high, Halloween 6 just seemed like a stupid thing to do. You just came out with Pulp Fiction, and now you're gonna go do the 6th Halloween entry? Let's be honest, I'm a Halloween fan just like you watching this. Would you do that? So let's get into the story of this script, and we'll talk about what happened after it. Have a seat. This is the most bizarre Halloween script I think I've read so far. Dana Childress, our new heroine, is braving a storm in her car. As she's driving, listening to the Mr. Sandman song of all songs, an alert takes over the radio station, reporting on a serial killer escaping in the area. Little did Dana know, Myers had secretly been hiding in her back seat all this time. As she sees him, she awakes from what was to be revealed as a nightmare. We see her telling her therapist about this dream, which is reoccurring for her at the midnight hour. She's also a reporter for the Channel 6 News, who seemed to be reporting on Haddonfield's first Halloween celebration since the murders in 1989. The story switches to Tommy Doyle, now a 29-year-old outcast. Tommy is living in constant fear of Myers. In hopes of finally getting a grip on his fears, he visits Smith's Grove to possibly meet with Loomis to discuss his troubles, only to find Loomis is now a patient himself at this hospital, who has seemingly lost his mind in pursuit of stopping Michael. We soon pan to 4 obnoxious teens harassing a vagrant at night. This vagrant turns out to be none other than Michael Myers himself. He slaughters all 4 boys. As Dana and her news crew arrives in town, Michael sets his sights on them. As the news crew starts to begin filming footage of a tacky gift shop in town, Myers notices a cheap rip-off mask that he donned back in the 70s. He steals it and dons it soon after. The news team makes a new stop at the Myers house, finding Sheriff Brackett waiting there just in case Myers ever does decide to show back up to his family home. While Dana is interviewing townspeople about the return of celebrating Halloween, it was interesting that they were going to have a clip of Dana interviewing Father Carpenter, who is to be revealed as the driver from Halloween 4 who picked up Dr. Loomis. She tries to interview Tommy Doyle himself, but he declined. Tommy finds out his friends steal the Judith Myers tombstone for their own Halloween party. We pan to the plot where the stone was, and what we see are bizarre rays of light emitting from the ground where she lay. The news station arrives at the cemetery to find the missing headstone, but do not notice the strange phenomena going on. Buckle up, this is where it gets wild. Dana interviews Frank and June Wallace, the parents of Lindsay Wallace, about their experience growing up with the Myers family. They're screening old home movies showing both the Wallace family and the Myers family before that horrible night in the 1960s. Dana makes a shocking discovery when she notices that Michael Myers' grandmother bears a striking resemblance to her own, revealing that she is in fact Michael's long-lost sister as well. Dana runs off to inform Tommy of the revelation while Myers slays the rest of her news team. Shocked by the revelation, Tommy straps Dana into his VR headset, which he likens to a high-tech Ouija board that can take you to places that you aren't supposed to go. She travels back to the Sam Hain era, where she sees the Myers family being cursed for the first time. Coming back into reality, she sees the truth about the Judith gravestone. It acts as a portal to the other world. If they can send Myers into it between midnight and 1 a.m., they can rid of him forever. They see the clock and know they have to act fast. After a valiant effort, they manage to get Myers into the grave, and Tommy's friends arrive just in time to place the headstones back into place, sealing the portal shut. Tommy looks at his watch as it reads 1:14, concerned if they manage to get him there in time during all the commotion. We pan to Father Carpenter, who is sitting down in the cemetery laughing menacingly, and we cut to the credits. I'll be a rat's ass. What the hell was that? The interesting thing about this was the interview in the book with said writer for this script was fairly agitated at the criticism he had received from other people about the script. The only thing I can conjure up in my mind was the fact that this was the 90s, and at the time, the virtual reality thing was extremely popular. I actually owned the Virtual Boy from Nintendo, which only lasted about a year and which came out in 1994. Virtual reality was supposed to be the next big thing, so to his defense, I will say I think that's where that angle was coming from. But Judith Myers' gravestone being a portal for different dimensions and times, wow. I've never read a Halloween script like that, and I'll be damned if I read another one like that in this book. Who knows, maybe there'll be some weirder ones. I mean, Michael going into space is one thing, but portals from the Judith Myers tombstone is another thing. So what happened to the script, you ask? Mustafa Akkad finally got the upper hand between him and Miramax. Miramax were fans of this script and they wanted to develop it a little bit more, but Akkad felt in his heart this was just the absolute worst place you can go. So soon after this, they would start to take this script and work on it in a different direction. And after this is where we have Halloween 666, the origin of Michael Myers. If you guys are interested in that, I'll be glad to read up on that and we can talk about the making or non-making of that script. I can't wait to see what you guys think about Halloween 666, the origin. What a bizarre story that could have been. We've got people becoming relatives of Myers, we've got portals, we've got weird time zone things going on. I don't know. I do hope you guys enjoyed that video, though. Let me know what you think down below. My name's Christian. You're watching Planet CHH. Drop a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and I anticipate your thoughts in the comment section. Take care. Thank you to all of my Patreon supporters who make videos like this possible. To get behind-the-scenes photos, videos, music, private live streams, and more, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thank you very much.